Vayasev Elohim Esom derech hamidbar. Hashem had taken the people in the circuitous route, the way of the desert, Yamsuf. Chamushim olu b'nei Yisrael meretz Mitzrayim. What is Chamushim? So Rashi explains, En Chamushim olu b'ziyonim. They were armed. Since he took him into the desert, who goram lem shalu chamushim. See, Hashem caused that they should leave Egypt armed. If he would take him through a location which was settled, populated, Howard. If you go through a settled location, you don't, mizuyonim over here means not only armed, they mean with all the provisions. But since they were going into the desert, they lo yimuchumoshim, el kodem shov mokum no mokum, datu likno shamash yitzar avokshu porish lamibo tzorach lezamin lo kol atzorech. So in terms of food, they weren't able to take, because that it says say the law of them. But weapons, they took weapons with them. This is just to give us an understanding. You see that weaponry. How do we know? Because it says they had smitten them with the sword. Where did they have swords from? The answer is they took swords with them. It's interesting. I mean, evidently, Klal Yisrael knew the route they were taking, right? So evidently, if they're going to Sinai, wherever they were going, originally they didn't know they were going to the desert, right? It says Lo nochel kim derech eretz plishtim kikorfu, meaning derech eretz. If they were going the Philistine route, they wouldn't have taken weaponry. But because Hashem was concerned, if they're confronted with war, they'd return. He took them the circuitous route. So initially, when they left Egypt, did they know they were taking the circuitous route? So evidently, they did know. Right? David, you're listening. Because it was saying now, they took swords or weaponry because they were going to the desert. That means in advance, they already knew. They may have not known the reason, but they knew they were going into the desert.
So what reason would they need army? Because we had the army.
Because they'd be confronted. If you're going into a desert, you have to prepare for every eventuality.
But you had the army cover.
But they still had a fight. You see, they still had a fight. They fought wars.
And then Chamushim.
Okay, we didn't get there. We didn't get there yet. Okay? But again, that's exactly what he's saying. If you go in desert, you need weapons. If you're going through a settled location, you don't need weapons. I'm just saying, if they took weapons out of Egypt, that means they knew they were going to a desert. In advance, they knew they were going to a desert. Right? Again, I'm getting to a certain point. Before it says in the Pasuk, God did not lead them along the Philistine route because it was close, because they may have a change of mind and want to go back. Initially, when they left, did they know they were going the Philistine route or they were going the desert route? No, Philistine route. That's a settled location. Right? So, as I'm asking, did they know where they were going through the desert in advance or not? It says Hashem did not lead them, but when they left Egypt, did they know? So evidently, I'm showing from this. You see, they did know. Because wait a second. So they knew they were taking weaponry, right? And therefore they knew they had to take weaponry because they were going to that. They knew this in advance. Okay? Now, lech techachrei b'midbar eretz lo zerua. It's evident also. Say to Lahem, why didn't they? So it's going back. Even the 80% who died in Egypt, they knew ultimately they're going through a desert, right? Because that's why they didn't want to go out. Because they didn't have the sufficient faith they could go into a desert without provisions, right? Therefore, they didn't go out. So even they knew they were going through the desert. So they were informed. And why aren't they going through the desert? Because Penny Nochim. And Moshe didn't tell them the reason why they were going through the desert. They're going to the desert. But the reason is because their own personal failing. It's because of their own lack of faith. That's why they're going to the desert, right? Because it says, why am I taking you not the Philistine route? Because you may be confronted with war, and you're going to want to return. How do you want? But if you have sufficient faith, you don't want to return. So you see, the reason why they're going to the desert is because they don't have sufficient faith. And despite they don't have sufficient faith, but in regard to Lech Dech Achrei Bamidbar, that they have sufficient faith, that Hashem will provide for them. You understand? There's a difference. Confronted with an enemy, that's a problem. But to go into the desert where you're going to be sustained by Hashem, that they had sufficient faith. Right? Do you see it clear? You understand what I'm saying, Ernie? Rami hasn't been here for a while, so he has to re-gear.
I got it.
Okay, good, but I'm just saying it's interesting over here. So it comes out interesting. The reason why we receive all these accolades for Lech Dech Achrei B'mid Be'eretz Lo Zeruach is because Pen Yinocham Rosa Milcham Shav Mitzrayim. It was as a result of our failing, therefore we're praised. You understand? Why are we going in the desert? Because Pen Yinocham Rosa Milchama. If we would have been at a more advanced level, we could have gone the Philistine route. Correct? Right? There's no fear return. But then afterwards, then they would have gone out. 100% would have gone out. But taking a regular, going through a settled location. You could purchase. No, then they wouldn't take weapons. No, it's only because you're going into the desert. When you go to the desert, you're in an unprotected location. It says they didn't want to go out. Why did they want to go out? And it says that 20% did want to go out. They're praised. That they're praised. Why are they praised? Because they went into a desert where it's unplanted. So evidently, you see, the issue was, do you have sufficient faith? Don't you have sufficient faith to go into a desert? No, it was a faith issue. For 80%, faith issue. It was a faith issue. That's what I'm showing you. That even in regard to food, even though regarding food, they had no issue, right? They went in to the desert, right? But if they're going to be confronted with war, so therefore they they took weapons with them. Because factually, you take the weapon in case, but you never know. When you're confronted, you may want to go back. So Hashem takes you into the desert, that it's going to be complicated to go back. No, I understand that. Yeah, but if you're going through a settled location, you don't have to take weapons. It's not too evident. It's right near Egypt. I'm sure in the Stone Chumash they must have a map or something showing you. Take a look in the Stone Chumash. Right. Yep. Because that's the fact. It's a fact. It's a different type of test. It says they wanted to go back, as Rashi cites. It said Nitnu Rosh V'Noshuva. That's right. Let's appoint a leader. We're going back. So it says here, the circus route, they wanted to go back. You can imagine if it was a straight route, they definitely would have wanted to go back. Okay, let's see Chelek.